G'day and thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be looking at this Netgear VPN Firewall switch. So the whole thing is just made out of metal. It's assembled by sort of two different clamshells. It's got a front and back obviously, so on the front it just has a whole bunch of lights, power test, link, and then it's got 8 different outputs and the lights on the front just to light that up. On the bottom, it just has these rubber feet. They're really nice, actually, rubber feet. And then a couple of cutouts here for mounting. So for wall mounting, you just put the screws through on the wall and then mount this up and it slides up really nicely. And then just on the back side, where all the business end is, where everything's happening. So we've got an on and off switch. We've got the input power in. Then we've got the actual internet connection. So that'll connect out to a router or to a different switch. And then we've actually got the output, so this is then the protected local LAN, local area network that the the firewall actually protects. Then we've got just a factory defaults reset and an earthing terminal. So this can just then be externally earthed to a rail, or if this is actually in a server rack, then that can just be earthed to the whole rack. So I think it's just got these screws on the side. I don't think it's got much else, so I'll undo them and see. Okay, so that's it. There's really not much actually holding it together, and there's also not all that terribly much inside. So starting at the front side, we've just got a bunch of LEDs. Actually, there's a few more screws. I might just take them out so we can look at the board a little bit better. So again, this is just all metal. This would have just been stamped out of big sheet metal, about 1 millimeter thickness. And then I think this is just plastic. Yeah, just little plastic caps that just protect this from the screws or screw heads actually not getting into it and damaging any of the electronics there. But then the actual PCB, quite a big one. Not much on this side actually. There's pretty much nothing on this side, just a bunch of little tracks and some through-hole components. So this is where everything's on. As I was sort of mentioning before, we've just got LEDs on this side in these sort of double level stacked, and they'll directly correspond to the front to sort of illuminate that different link and the activity on each line. Might actually start from this side. So we've got a switch here and we've got the actual power coming in. I think this is a 12 volt that comes in. That power comes in. There's a couple of inductors, capacitors, and little IC chips there. I think that's probably going to be some power, either stepping down or stepping up, or actually just a little filter for that power. But I think this is just going to operate maybe on 2 different circuits. So one of them, my guess would be 3.3 or 5 volts to actually provide power to all these little chips, because they'll operate on a most likely 3.3 volts. And then whatever this actually the Ethernet protocol operates on, there'll be probably a second one that'll step up or step down that power according. So these chips here, this big one here is most likely the main chip doing all of the actual processing, and that microprocessor here will then have a flash storage and also some RAM. So this here has a Samsung marking on it, so that might be flash, and then this guy might be RAM, or the other way around. There's another chip here as well. It's probably doing some secondary filtering or conversion. It might be for the actual signal. So what this communicates on analog, and it receives analog, but these components on here will all work on digital. So there'll be some sort of analog to digital conversion somewhere on here. These 2 little guys here are just crystal oscillators. They're basically just there to provide a really precise frequency to these processors to actually operate. Then on this side we've got the RJ45 terminals, so where the actual output goes out and the cables plug in, and these here are just going to be actual transformer modules. So those transformer modules will just have a whole bunch of little transformers inside for the transmit and receive line. And what that does is that just isolates the input and the actual electronics here. So through that magnetic field within that transformer. And what it also does is it basically just sort of acts as a bit of a filter. It just keeps a constant wave function and then just suppresses any sort of high frequency noise. So it acts as a common mode choke as well, because these long cables, they'll have, they work on differential signaling. So the twisted pair will have the same magnitude in each cable but different polarity. And because of also the length of those cables, that can create slight changes in the voltage within that, or these modules might not always switch on and off at exactly the same time. So the transformers in here will just filter that out. It looks like small little capacitors there as well on each line. So there's 4 per board and there's just 4 outputs there. So those guys as well, probably just a little bit of filtering as well. The capacitor just storing a little bit of power. That's pretty much it. And then really the rest of all this, I assume this will all just be a ground plane. So same as on this side as well, we've got this really big plane over here that a bunch of components do connect to. I think this is probably just a ground plane. And same as on this side, all of this leftover space here is usually just ground plane. So what that'll do is just sort of provide that isolation for the voltage actually happening on there, and sort of just protecting the whole board. But that's pretty much it. There's not all that much to it, just a bunch of electronics on this PCB that get the job done. Not everything's nice and solid state, so nothing, no moving parts. Only real failures here are just going to be electrical failures. So thank you very much for watching. If you got a minute, leave a quick like, and if you want to see more of this sort of stuff, then consider subscribing. Thanks very much.